G'day folks, welcome to another episode of Learn to Paint TV. Rod Moore here with you again. This week we're going to do a little subject of a corner store, the old-fashioned corner store in a country town in New South Wales. It was just near Bathurst. It's a photo that I took from one of my many trips, so let's have a look at it here. And it's quite an interesting little subject. It's got that big wide veranda there, and it's got some nice shadows and light effects on the roof. Up on the board that we're going to use here, this is a MDF board that I've prepared. It's a 12 inch by 16 inch, and all I've done here is just put in a very light coat of the alizarin and the yellow ochre, which gives us an earthy tone, and I've just toned the board there with that. So I'll take our small little flat brush here and swish in some water, and our starting point is to get a little bit of a drawing in. So this is step one of the Moore method of painting. We'll start off with a drawing. So all I'm doing is just mixing those two colours together, and I'm looking for a dark. So you don't want this paint too thick at this point. Now the obvious place to start with this is going to be finding the position of the road. If we can get that road in first, then that'll make our life easier. So I think that road is going to run through there. It's going to be the dirt road here, and it then comes in around about there, and it runs out that way for the main road, and so that sort of follows it, but maybe that needs to come over there. It goes up that way like so. Okay, so that gives us some coordinates to work with. And then the building is set back, is obviously a footpath, so we'll just set that back to about there. Okay, we'll run that up, that comes up to right about there. So this is the front of the building. Just run that through to around about there. Okay, you got that dark door somewhere there. Okay, I'm not too fussed about getting those details in at this early stage. Now, I've got that flapper that probably needs to run more at that angle, I suspect. Okay. Then from there, we've got the veranda, which is going to stick out to there, and it's going to have a support pole down to there. There's another one there. There's one behind it. Okay, so that's a pretty amazing looking veranda, which is part of the reason why I chose this subject. I thought, well, it's a different sort of, it's typical country Australia, I guess. So that line needs to run down to about there to get that in. So that then runs up at an angle to there. Get a bit more paint. So this is, there's a little bit of work in this drawing. So take your time getting this drawing as accurate as you can. Now I don't fuss too much about getting super accurate drawings on Learn to Paint TV, because we're trying to keep this beginner level. So do the best job you can with it and get it as accurate as you can, and maybe even have a little bit of a go in your sketchbook first. Mightn't be a bad idea. Okay, so this goes to there, and then from here we've got a section that runs up a couple of steps up, and that runs across the top there, runs slightly up, and that runs to there. So it's like a facade that they've put on the front of that building there. Okay, it is quite tall. The amount of the building, if you look at the photo there, the amount of the facade versus the underneath the veranda, there's a fair bit of it there, so don't undersize that. Okay. And then from there we have, well, it runs out and it sort of runs off into the distance there. And then we have this metal roof through to there. So we'll work out something with that. And that's our main sort of little subject there, which is taking up a fair bit of our space here in the painting, which is fine. And then we'll just pop in some trees in and around it. so, and that'll just create a nice little backdrop to this painting. Okay. Then we have over here, we have a big tree here which comes out there and it's going to work its way out. So it's all about big shapes, isn't it? Like this tree, here's a big shape. There's a bit of work in the corner store as a big shape, but we've pretty well worked that out. And then out the back here, which runs just in through there. Okay, so I've just added some yellow ochre to our mix and some titanium white. I'm now going to go to a slightly larger brush here and use that for getting most of our block in, except for around the building here. We'll go slightly smaller, but I'll start off with some of the details around the building, so we'll come back to that. So let's get some of that tree tone in. We get a dark green happening. Okay. And we'll just reduce the value by adding just a touch of the white in. Picked up a little bit too much of that red there, not to worry. Just get a little bit more white into that. Okay, so in the back here we've got some trees. We don't know, well, we don't at this point want to fuss too much with that. We'll just get some colour down. Now because I do have that coloured ground down on this board, it's not taking the paint as well as I'd like initially, but that's okay. We'll just put something down and then we'll, when we come back in for our step 3, we can then just strengthen up that paint. Okay, a little bit lighter in value, and then we'll come into this main tree and we'll just strengthen that up. Get our blue and our red into that. You can see that underpainting is coming through nice and strong, which helps to unify the whole painting and pull the whole painting together. Shadow underneath there. Okay, and you can see that this is obviously darker in value. It's a little bit warmer in tone than the trees in the background there, and we get a nice overlapping effect there, which is perfect. Now it's too blue, so how do we reduce the amount of blue into it and make it grey? Well, I'm picking up some of that muck off the palette. You can see that's automatically got it there. Let's just test. It's probably too blue and too dark, so I'll take some more white into it. It's probably now made it too light. Let's try that. No, that's not too bad, is it? Let's just pop that in. It's going to run out past the old corner store there. Like so. Now this face in here, it's yellow, but it's also in shadow. So let's just take a yellow tone, a bit of yellow ochre, and work that in. It's kind of a mustard yellow. I don't think I've quite got the right tone there. In fact, I'm pretty sure I haven't. But that's okay. I'll lay it down. We'll let it dry and then we can reassess. Probably might go a bit yellower, just so we get it a bit closer to where we want it to be. More yellow ochre. So I'm going to utilise this shadow tone that we've already been using for the footpath, and I'll just increase the amount of yellow into it. Let's just try that. Worry about the details. Like, we could probably just continue on with the theme. I'll get a little bit more of that shadow tone in there. Runs up a little bit higher just there, and it drops down to that level there. I'll let some of that underpainting come through. Okay, now up the top here, this is more of a whiter tone. So let's get a swipe of that white and pop it there. But it's not pure white, so we'll mix it into this tone here. Okay, so it's a light neutral tone now. Okay, now we'll go lighter again. Take another swipe of that white and pop it there. We'll just test this out as a roof colour. The roof wants to be a light grey. Grab our white. We've got a bit of a bluey grey already happening there. Let's just blue that up. Okay, and then around here, is that light enough? Probably not. Get some more white into that. Just pop in a few little sky holly type things. Now, people have asked me questions about when they've watched the videos, the Learn to Paint TV. They've asked me, why do you not put the sky in first and then paint everything over the top of the sky? And part of the reason is the way we teach here at the Learn to Paint Academy is based on the way you would approach oil painting, right? So oil painting, if you're painting a prima, and so why do we do that? Well, we do that because I want to make the skills I teach you in acrylics to be transferable to oils. Because for a lot of you, it's going to be a natural progression to move to oils, right? At some point, whether it's water mixable or... But as you progress and develop your skills, it's a good chance that you might want to move to oils. So we teach in a way that is suitable to oil painting with acrylics, so that the skills are transferable. And the problem with with putting your sky in first is that the sky is usually the lightest value, and your lights destroy all your darks. Very hard to put darks in over the top of a light paint that's already there. Okay. it's much easier to put your darks in first. Those darks are really dry, and now I can work around them with my sky. Let this all dry off and have a little break, go and have a cup of tea or lunch, and when it's fully dry we can then come back in and work over the top of this. So let's do that. We'll have a break, let it dry off, and then I'll see you right after the break. Cheers for now. Okay, welcome back folks. We're now going to do step 3 of the Moore method of painting, which is of course our details, our highlights, our finishing touches. Really bring this painting to life. I think we're traveling along pretty well here. You can see that the paint in the darks there is dried fairly thin, so we'll start out, we'll work back into these, we'll strengthen that up, and as we go we will then add some foliage on and work forward from there. So let's have a look here. Actually, we'll pop down to the palette. I've just refreshed my ultramarine blue, my permanent alizarin crimson, yellow ochre, added a bit of cadmium yellow medium. You could use light, that's no problem, and some more titanium white. So the starting point here is obviously to get back to our dark. So this was a bluey grey dark in here. Just cool that back even more. And that's probably pretty close there. Yeah, it's pretty close. So let's just work some of that in. Now this is pretty touch dry, this underpainting that we've done here. So that gives us a chance then just to get some nice little touches in our edges there. Okay. The board is just a little bit thirsty, so it's soaked up a lot of that previous mix. So that's why I'm just strengthening it back up here now. Go a bit more blue, a bit more red. No white in this one, and maybe a pinhead of the yellow just to take some of that purple out. Instead of put those little sky holes in, so don't paint those out, they're important. Because if you look at the actual subject, there's a ton of sky holes, and you don't need to put every one of them in. A few little hints of them is all that's really required. Okay, overlap that tree. Push a bit more on the yellow side because the grasses are fairly dried out. And it needs to be fairly pale in there as well, so maybe just a touch more of the white. Let's try that. That's going to sit in here. There's a fair bit happening in that section if you look at the photo closely. You don't have to get it all in because people aren't going to be comparing your painting to the photo. Okay. You can try and pick up some of those details in there if you want. There's some other buildings and things. You can put a little dash of light, but I've compressed that area a bit. There's a bit of grass over here, so I'm going to just warm that up because that is getting some light here. So basically from about there, this is it's probably a little bit too bright, but it helps set the lighter tone. This is just a really light touch. I'm just sort of scrubbing that brush over the paint there. Well, if I go too much, then I need to just move that paint around a bit, because that can happen. You know, sometimes you lose concentration for a second, or you've got too much paint on the brush. These things can happen, hey? Or you're talking too much. There we go. Get some nice little shapes of trees in there. So now we come to our bigger tree closer to us. We kind of now need to go, okay, let's punch it up another level. Okay, so we'll get in a bit more of the yellow ochre and the cadmium yellow. Okay, a little pinhead of this red. Okay, let's have a closer look at that mix. So it's just blue, red and yellow and the two yellows, and it's just getting the right combination of those, right? I'm just going to pull it back with a touch more blue for the moment. Because being the bigger tree, we kind of need to have a mid-tone and a highlight tone in there. So let's just try that and just see. I'll come into the main close-up camera here so you can get a good feel for what we're doing. I'm pulling paint off the brush against the board there. I could just use paper towel as well. Okay. Now that red that's coming through on the board acts as a complement to these green foliage, which is a good thing. Okay, now I'm going to not lose my shadows in there. See, I've got plenty of that shadow tone already in there, or left in there. We started out with it already in there. And the last thing I want to do is eliminate any of it, or some of it obviously, with the foliage, but I don't want to lose that shadow in there. And I think that's working pretty well. So I've just mixed up blue, red and yellow. It runs pretty much right there. Okay, that's good. And then we've got window that runs through here. And it needs a little bit of work in those windows. I think maybe it wants to be a touch darker as well in parts. A little bit of red in there, which will make it a bit more interesting. I'll just tone it back a bit, but there's a Coca-Cola sign in there. Don't put a bright red in. It will dominate too much. Right, so get something like that happening. And also then got one down the side here. Using a script liner brush and dipping that in the water. So we've got this nice and ink-like consistency happening with the paint. And then we need to just come here. Okay, get that one out the back there. Okay, so I'm thinking that the shadow in here probably needs to be darkened up a bit to be a lighter grey like so. So let's get that in. A bit too light. So okay, now I'm wondering about the yellow tone that we are using on our walls there. I think maybe that needs to be improved. So we'll just get some yellows happening in here with a little touch of dark. Because that's obviously wrong, that colour on that wall there. So let's just try this. This has got to be rough. Well, it's roughly the same tone as that in there, but that's, I don't know, there's something not quite right there. Get more yellow into it. A little bit like that. Now I think it just lightens off ever so slightly, which is kind of confusing. Confused me before. With this wall in here. Now the advantage, of course, of getting the colour wrong the first pass through is that I get these nice little shifts in tone when I put the closer to correct colour on. It's looking closer to the colour scheme, I think. Probably what's letting it down now is that shadow on the footpath. So let's cooler dark in there. Air conditioning unit or something in the doorway there. And then here we've got nice little fence through there. So you can see we're really into the little nitty-gritty details here now. And it's up to you how far you want to go with those details. My view's always been not to get carried away with details when you're learning. It's not always in your best interests. It's more about getting big shapes and the right values and things in. So you can see I was putting a couple of little marks there to indicate some faraway sheds and things, and that's all it needs sometimes. If you get too caught up in details, you lose sight of what actually makes a painting work, is the big shapes, the edges, the values. Okay folks, well I think we'll call this one finished for today. Fun little project. It's the old corner store in a country setting, painting that anyone can have a go at, so give it a go. And I think you'll find it quite an enjoyable scene. Now, if this is your first time watching us and you haven't already done so, make sure you go by the Learn to Paint Academy and register for the free course. I'll put the web address underneath me here, and you can register for a free course where I go into the more method of painting in a lot more detail for you, and there's about 4 different painting projects there for you to have a go at. Thanks very much for watching Learn to Paint TV, and I'll see you next week on Learn to Paint TV. Cheers for now.